Welcome back to the deep dive. So, last time we really dug into the external side of things, didn't we?
Yeah, the burnout, the stress, how ambition kind of crumbles under all that pressure.
Yeah.
External failure, basically.
Exactly. But today, we're going to shift that focus. We're moving inward, looking at what might be, well, the more painful casualty of that whole high-pressure life.
The heart itself.
Yeah, the heart.
And it's this really deep, almost cruel paradox we see.
Yeah.
You've got these high-achieving people, maybe engineers, people who conquer deadlines, fix impossible tech problems.
Masters of the corporate climb, using this incredible efficiency.
Right. They nail the external stuff. But then, why is there still that internal void, that feeling of structural isolation when they get home?
And our source material today really focuses on one person's journey, an engineer who just perfectly shows this. He builds these flawless, complex software systems for his job. Perfect architecture there.
Yeah, he's got that down.
But his personal relationships, his, let's call it emotional architecture, it's just constantly collapsing.
And you have to look at the environment because it's not just him. It's like an incubator for this fragility. It actually makes it worse.
How so?
Well, the sources paint this picture, it's vivid, of a world where, 12 plus hours in the office isn't unusual. It's what you need to do to hit deadlines before stock markets open.
Wow. Intense.
Incredibly intense. Everyone's just a blur of focus. And those social lines, colleague, friend, maybe something more, they just dissolve and reform based on pure professional need.
Okay, so when your whole world operates in that kind of space, competitive, high stakes, transactional,
Yeah.
then trying to connect with people, it just gets twisted, right?
Completely corrupted. It stops being about, real human interaction.
Maybe become
Cold, hard, emotional accounting. And that's really our mission for this deep dive, isn't it?
Yeah.
To unpack how that happens.
Yeah, let's get into the mechanics of that sort of mental accounting system. See how it basically destroys any chance of real connection.
Okay, yeah, accounting. It's such a subtle but damaging way to approach relationships.
Well, the core issue seems to be the shift, right? You stop just seeking connection and start seeking return.
Exactly. Return on investment.
You start keeping this mental tally. Maybe you don't even realize you're doing it, but it's exhausting. You track every little input.
Mm-hmm. The sources show this perfectly with the protagonist. He's just agonizing, thinking things like, I've tried everything, but I can't figure out what's going on in her head.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Some days it feels like she likes me. Other days I'm sure it's one-sided. That kind of internal calculation.
It's like applying an engineering mindset where it just doesn't belong.
That's it precisely. This need for clear inputs, predictable outputs. You can't apply that to human vulnerability.
So you start tracking things like data points.
Yeah.
How many texts did I send? How much time did I invest? How vulnerable was I? And then you demand a predictable result. Affection or clarity or commitment. It stops being fluid.
Right. Intimacy turns into, risk management. Prediction, not connection.
But hang on, doesn't that transactional approach, doesn't it sometimes feel like it works? At least for a bit, especially in those competitive places.
Yeah.
You mentioned risk management. It gives you a sense of control, maybe, over something totally chaotic. Does it offer any, short-term rewards before it all falls apart?
Well, that's the trap, isn't it? In the short term, yeah, calculating feels productive. It feels like what makes him succeed at work.
Okay, so it feels familiar, like you're doing something, exactly.
Yeah.
But the sources are clear. Human connection just doesn't work like a solved equation. The moment the other person acts unpredictably, which, let's face it, humans always do.
That whole mental spreadsheet just crashes. The transactional way buys you efficiency, maybe, but it costs you durability. And the end result is always burnout, professional and emotional.
And the work environment itself, it seems to actively fight against fixing this. It creates what the sources called solitude and proximity.
Yeah, solitude and proximity. You're surrounded by people, colleagues, maybe even friends, but real connection. Almost impossible.
Why? What stops it?
External urgency. It just constantly shatters any attempt. The sources give these really specific, almost heartbreaking examples. Someone quietly tries to ask a colleague to dinner, finally gets the nerve up,
Yeah.
and boom, high priority work thing drops. Pulls them both right back into the deadline frenzy.
Wow. Okay, so even finding a space.
They try. They detail how sometimes the only place they feel safe enough for a real non-work chat is the chilly server room.
The server room, serious.
It's the one place safe for managers may be overhearing.
Okay, trying to find refuge.
But even there, it's fleeting. Just as the engineer starts to maybe share something real, it's broken. Maybe another engineer walks in to check hardware. Suddenly you're back in professional mode.
Sure.
Or worse, a phone call, family interference, or the stock market tanks and needs immediate attention.
Jeez. So that quiet space you need for authenticity.
Crushed. Again and again. And the character himself reflects on this, right? He thinks finding love in his industry is, he says, practically impossible.
Yeah, you can see why. Love needs presence, patience, vulnerability.
And these jobs demand constant absence, immediate results.
Makes sense.
It basically teaches you that vulnerability doesn't pay off. If work teaches you effort equals reward, but your heart teaches you vulnerability equals unpredictable pain.
You retreat to what feels predictable. Work.
Exactly.
Okay, so the connection attempts fail, predictably, under these conditions. And the protagonist retreats, the sources say, into a blur of regret and anger.
And then that crushing silence of an empty home, it would be so easy just to call it heartbreak and stop there.
But there's more to it.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. He has this much harder realization. It goes beyond just, romantic disappointment.
What is it?
He realizes the emptiness he feels wasn't actually caused by the rejection, by the relationship feeling.
No.
No, the rejection just uncovered a loneliness that was always there inside him. It was just hidden by the noise, the chase for success.
Okay, that feels like the universal hook. Why does the successful person, the one who ticked all the boxes, still carry that structural isolation?
Right. It was there all along.
Yeah.
Just masked by career validation.
So why is it there? How do the sources explain that?
Well, they connect this internal failure directly back to that external instability we talked about before. Remember the fragile job market?
Yeah, layoffs, recessions, success being kind of an illusion.
Exactly. If that system, the meritocracy you believed in, turns out to be unreliable, if your effort doesn't guarantee security, it shatters your trust, fundamentally.
So if the rules can just change like that, if your hard work at your job can just be wiped out, that creates deep distrust.
Precisely. If the professional world is that fragile, that non-meritocratic, you learn effort doesn't equal reward. So why on earth would you risk the massive pain of emotional vulnerability?
The stakes are so much higher. Losing a job is bad. Losing your heart
is losing part of yourself. So the failure of the job market mirrors the failure of the heart, because both destroy that foundation of predictability, of trust. And this deep distrust makes you start looking inward, thinking the fault isn't just outside, it's in your own internal wiring.
Okay. So amidst all this chaos and distrust, what does he do? The sources mention some, temporary safety nets?
Yeah, he leans on what he can. A really trusted college friend is mentioned.
Right.
He actually describes his friends as acting like free psychiatrists.
Right, yeah.
They listen, they absorb the fallout without sending an invoice.
That's a striking way to put it.
Isn't it? And he also tries grounding himself, using old cultural rituals, in his case, indie rituals, maybe searching for some kind of fixed, reliable system when everything else feels like it's failed him.
Those sound like the temporary balms, the things we all grab onto when things feel shaky. They offer some relief from the pressure.
They absolutely do. And they're necessary, but they are finite.
Okay, the sources are really clear. These are external supports. A friend can only take so much emotional dumping before it strains the friendship. Rituals offer comfort, maybe structure, but they don't change the underlying issue. They don't fix the flawed architecture.
Exactly. They don't fix that fundamental emotional system that's stuck on transactional thinking. They're just bandages on a deep systemic problem.
So where does that leave us, or, the listener? The core problem seems to be this. We're aiming for love or connection, which the sources suggest should be, selfless, enduring. But what we keep achieving feels cold and transactional. So what are we missing? What's the missing piece of code, the foundational thing?
Well, what seems to be missing is a systematic approach to redefining what connection even is. The modern heart, it's isolated by its own success because its internal programming is optimized for the wrong goal.
The engineer's mind, successful at building external systems,
has just internalized the wrong code for relationships.
Yeah.
We haven't figured out a system for building connections that last because we're still stuck calculating the cost versus the benefit.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tie this together then. We've basically laid out this universal dilemma for you, the listener. You might be applying these transactional principles, the very skills that maybe made you successful at work, to your deepest relationships. And that leads almost inevitably to that feeling of isolation, that structural loneliness, even if you've achieved everything externally.
We know the internal architecture is flawed. The whole journey we've discussed points to needing some kind of definitive system, right? Not just for work, but for emotional sustainability.
Yeah, a way to get past the calculation, to move into something genuinely selfless.
And that's really where we're heading next. The sources do point towards that kind of solution, a need for like a blueprint for internal realignment.
hmm Insights that go beyond the transactional,
Yeah.
that offer systematic principles for building real, lasting connection.
Okay.
Which leaves us with, I think, an important final question for you to chew on after this deep dive.
Mhm.
If we need to escape this transactional trap, what is the defining difference between going after a relationship based on possession?
Okay. Treating the other person like an asset, a return on investment.
Yeah, that transactional view. What's the difference between that and striving for true, enduring connection, the kind that requires selfless effort, that accepts vulnerability without demanding a guaranteed payback?
That feels like the core distinction.
It is, and figuring out that difference for yourself,
Yeah.
well, that's the start of that quiet, powerful journey of internal realignment we probably all need to explore.